up everyone? Welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, my name is Caitlin and I'm so happy that you're here either way. Today I'm super excited because I'm going to be sharing with you my birth story. I am a first-time mom. I have a little girl that's just over 5 weeks old right now, and so I'm going to be sharing with you the process of my unmedicated birth at a birthing center. I had her in a birthing pool and just go over all those details. I'm assuming that if you've clicked on this video, then you are somewhat interested in maybe pursuing a birth like that or labor. So I'm going to try to be as honest and as raw as I can and kind of invite you in on like the process of maybe what I was feeling and experiencing, and just thoughts that I have looking back, thoughts that will probably influence the next time that I give birth. But anyways, I just want to be super honest and raw with everyone about my experience. Of course, everyone's is going to be different, but okay, so on a Friday, it was March 17th, my husband and I woke up and I wasn't feeling anything, very pregnant, very ready to be done being pregnant, and we went to Costco. So we go to Costco and we just do a full-on grocery thing. So we were walking quite a bit, which, you know, can kind of get things going, but I was just at that point, I had been so like anxious for her to come, not like anxious like anxiety, but like I had so much anticipation and I wanted her to come so bad, and I was like so over being pregnant, and I really wanted to meet her, that I kind of got to a place where I was like, I just have to let it go and just trust that she's gonna come exactly when she needs to come, because otherwise it's like every second the only thing I was thinking about is like, why is she not here yet? So I was feeling pretty like good and I wasn't really thinking about it, and why I just said that will be important in a second. But anyways, we're walking around Costco. We were there for a good little bit, and then I kind of started feeling like pains in my stomach, kind of like period cramps, or like my stomach hurt and I had to go to the bathroom. But they were really short and brief, but I definitely kind of felt them, and they weren't super intense, but I didn't want to get my hopes up that would, like, that those were contractions, right? I'm a first-time mom. I don't really know what contractions feel like. Of course, people have described them in different ways, but I really didn't want to get my hopes up because I had so much anticipation. I just wanted her to come, and I had lost my mucus plug like 2 weeks before that, which is pretty like normal, I think, for like when that happens. It could happen 2 weeks from then. It could happen a few hours. Like, it's like labor's close, but not like that close potentially, you know what I mean? So I had lost mine like 2 weeks before, and then nothing had happened, and I was just, I think because I kind of was disappointed with that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna play it cool. I didn't tell anyone. I was feeling these in Costco. Then as the day went on, I decided like I'm gonna go run some errands. I wanted to get a pot for this big guy behind me that I had just recently got, and so I did that, and then I was starting to feel them a little bit more frequently, but again, I was like, be cool, you know what I mean? Like, don't get too excited. If I get excited and it doesn't happen, I have to go to work on Monday again, I'm gonna cry real tears. So I was like, you know, just stay calm. And then, so I go to several different stores, I come back, and then I felt this urge to like clean the house. So I just cleaned the house really nicely, and my husband had gone to the gym at that point. So at this point, I started kind of feeling them definitely more consistently, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to pull out this app that I have, which you can look up on the App Store, and there's like apps that like monitor contractions as far as timing goes. There's like several of them, right? So I just picked one and I started monitoring them. You just press the button, it records, and then you stop it, and then it just keeps it going. So it tells you exactly how long they are, as well as, I'm sure you can do this on your phone app as well, but anyways, so I'm doing that, and it was kind of like at 8 minutes, then 2 minutes, like apart, 8 minutes apart, 5 minutes apart, 2 minutes apart, 8 minutes apart, kind of all over the place, but they were usually like anywhere from 20 seconds to 50 seconds. But I'm like, okay, these seem like, it kind of seems like something's rolling. But again, this could be like pre-labor, like you could have like false labor, right? So I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. I haven't even told Asher at this point, my husband. Well, eventually, towards like after I kept cleaning, they definitely were becoming more consistent, where I texted Asher and I was like, okay, I think I'm having contractions. but I don't know. I really, really don't know. Like, I just emphasize, like, I don't know. So, by the time he got home, he was like, I think he was kind of in disbelief too. Like, it really is hard to wrap your mind around when you're first time parents, right? Like, is this really happening? It kind of feels like it's never actually going to happen. It just feels like, yeah, we're gonna have a baby one day, but like, what does that actually mean? So anyways, we kept going, and I'm thinking, okay, I definitely feel these, but like definitely doable, right? Like I'm just breathing through them. I'm doing all the things that I learned, and I felt pretty good. So it was probably around like 5 when he had gotten home, and then probably by like 6, they were getting definitely more frequent. I feel like I said that weird, frequent. Anyways, and at that point, they were getting to like 4 minutes apart, and they were 45 seconds long. So I'm in my room at this point, and I am like leaning up against the bed, like my hands are on the bed, but I'm standing up, or maybe my elbows, like I was like this on the bed, but I'm standing up. That doesn't make sense. I started out with my hands on the bed, standing up, breathing through them. Then I got like on my elbows and my arms like this, and I was on my knees, leaning up against the bed, breathing. So at that point, Asher texted our midwife and was just like, hey, just so you know, Caitlin's having contractions. This is kind of where they're at, blah, blah, blah. And, or maybe he had done that right when he got home. So then at this point, he had texted her and said, hey, they're actually like 4 minutes apart now, 45 seconds long, blah, blah, blah. And so she was like, okay, well, I am leaving dinner with my daughter, so I will go to the birthing center if y'all want to meet me there, and I'll check her, and we'll just kind of see where she's at. So we did that. We left like I think we got there around 9. So it was probably like an hour or so later. We got there around 9. And this part is just weird. I don't know why I think this is so weird, but it's not weird. I think it's just, I'm always going to remember it because it was so random. Like I started, which I'll say this, I was sick like the week leading up to birth, which I like literally never get sick. So I got sick the week, of course, leading up to birth. And as I gave birth, like, and a few days after, I was still like sick and getting over it. So I don't know if this had to do with that, but we are going out to the car, and from my door to the car, I started like violently shaking, like could not regulate my body temperature. I'm not talking like, oh, I'm shivering. Like I'm like freaking, I can't even redo it. Like I naturally can't even get myself to do it. I was shaking so wildly, and my teeth were chattering. I swear the neighbors 10 doors down could hear it. Like, okay, that's dramatic, but it was like intense, and I was like, what the heck is going on? So I just got in there in the car, and the whole ride there, which is only like 5 minutes, but the whole ride there, I was like shaking, and I was so cold. I could not regulate my, like I said, cannot regulate my body temperature. So that was just so random and weird. And when we got there, I had to sit in the car just for like a minute or two, just so I could like walk, because I was just like, anyways, we get there, and then I finally get in, and my midwife was like, how you doing? I'm like, I don't know how to answer that question. Good, but excited, but also having contraction. So anyways, so we get there, and she has like a few different rooms in her birthing center. One, like 2 rooms have beds in it, and then there's like more of like an open space where we do all the appointments, but that is where she was going to set up the birthing pool. So it wasn't set up yet. And when I got there, she checked me, and I was at 5 centimeters. I was 5 centimeters dilated. So I was honestly like, okay, I feel good about that. Like we're halfway there, and it feels like I can manage, like it's doable. And again, I was kind of using the bed as like leaning up against it to breathe and to go through contractions. At that point, I mean, they were probably like a little bit closer, a little bit longer, and a little bit stronger. So it was progressing for sure. And I also felt good I also felt good sitting on a yoga ball or a chair. And I think that's because it's like you're kind of trying to relax and in some ways like preserve energy. And so I felt like if I were standing up or doing this or that, like standing in itself is more energy than sitting. So I kind of was like, I felt good sitting because I could like put my body weight down and not have to hold myself up. and just kind of relax and breathe into it and lean back. So that's kind of what I did. I did try different positions, but that's what felt good to me. I had tried to lay down. That was probably the worst position for me. I just felt like, I don't know, it just was not comfortable for me at all to lay down in any way. So I didn't do that. I avoided that. And I did that for probably, honestly, all of the time. The timing of it all is lost on me. I don't even know. Like, I just know that my labor was 17 hours long, and I don't know when and what happened in those 17 hours, but the baby came at the end of that. So I don't really know. I want to say maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. I don't think it was over 2 hours. I was in the room doing that. And my midwife checked me again. So actually she would encourage me like, hey, why don't you try to go to the bathroom? Because you kind of like lose, like your body and your mind becomes so focused only on this one thing, getting the baby out and contracting and laboring, that like you don't really necessarily think about going to the bathroom or drinking water, doing that. So a lot throughout the whole process, my midwife, as well as my husband, were like, hey, take a sip of water, which I did like in between every contraction. My husband just held up a glass to me with a straw, and I would take a few sips to try to stay hydrated in between each contraction. And then every now and then they would be like, hey, let's try to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and then I come back. She's like, do you want me to check you again? And I had felt like, because it had been like a few hours or whatever around that time that she had checked me last, and because they were progressing, I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it, whatever. So I felt good about it, which initially I was going in, I'm like, I don't really want to get checked at all, maybe once or twice towards like maybe at the very beginning. I just didn't want to get checked a bunch because I felt like it was going to get in my head, which it did, because she checked me and I thought for sure I was at like at least a 7. Thought I was going to be at an 8. I was at a 6. So I was like, what does that even mean? What did you just say? What did you just say? I was at a 6? Because I'm confused. I feel like it's been progressing, and I went from like 0 to 5 pretty quickly so what I thought. So to be honest, that really, I think that bummed me out. And it also, looking back, probably like stalled me a little bit, because I had to kind of get over that, or you know what I mean? Which I'll get into all of that in a second. But anyways, I was disappointed, to say the least. But at that time, the birthing pool was ready. So she was like, do you want to get in the pool? And I was like, yeah. So it's kind of like my saving grace. Like, dang, I'm disappointed, but thank God, I'm just going to get in the pool, relax. And the pool definitely does help with like relaxing and pain management. So I was very thankful for that. Not that you can't feel it, but I think, it's just the same concept. If you're achy or this or that and you get into a bath, it's going to relax you. It's going to relax your muscles. So I got into the pool, and at that point I was like leaning up against it like this. Like, it felt good again to sit and kind of just relax. So I was like leaning back on the side, and the pool was pretty big, and my legs were just like in front of me, just flat out like this, you know what I mean? Got in the pool, I started implementing some things that I had learned. If you haven't read this and you are wanting to do a natural birth, I highly recommend it. It's called Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. She's a midwife, and there's like a ton of positive birth stories in here. So there's something in here called sphincter law that she talks about, and the idea is, I won't go into all the details, but the idea is that like your body has sphincters. I don't really actually know that if this is a scientific terminology or whatever it is, but basically it's like your body is very connected. If you go to the bathroom, say that you're going to the bathroom in front of someone and you're sitting on the toilet, you're probably not actually going to feel comfortable enough to go to the bathroom, right? But if you're like doing it in front of like your spouse or someone that you've lived with or whatever, someone that you're very comfortable with, it's a lot easier to relax and to go to the bathroom. And being on the toilet in general, you feel more relaxed down there. You're just so used to it. You can go to the bathroom very easily one way or the other. So the idea is that you the more you relax, the more that you can open up and the more that you can work with your body. So she talks a lot about like, if your face is tense, you're gonna be tense down there. And if your hands are tense, it's like also connected. So she talks a lot about like working with your body, knowing how to like ride the waves. And so that's kind of the mindset that I went in with like, okay, I'm gonna surrender more or less to what's going on. I'm not gonna fight it. But each time like the contraction would come, I would take a deep breath and I would body check, like relax my face, relax my eyes. And because most of the time automatically I caught myself kind of like, and then, oh, I have to relax. So that's basically what I did every single time. So I'm leaning up against the pool, the back of the pool, and a contraction would come, and then I would like, I'm lifting up my arms kind of obnoxiously right now, but obviously they were in the pool and relaxed, but so you can see. And I would open up my hands and I would just go like this. So I'm like, my eyes are closed, my head's back, and I'm just zen. I'm trying to zen, you know, as much as I can when I'm having a labor contraction. So I'm like going like this, kind of moving in the water, keeping my hands open and my palms open, to help relaxing my shoulders, relaxing my face, my eyebrows, just everything. And just imagined like myself, okay, I'm opening up, I'm going with the flow, I'm surrendering. I was just saying Jesus, like the name of Jesus, and I was thinking his name, and that is kind of the extent to where I got sometimes. And I get up on and I lean up against the side like this, which I'll put a picture. I don't know what side it's gonna go on. I'll put a picture somewhere. And I was on my knees. Now this probably felt the best, to be honest, in this position in the pool. The only hard part about this was my legs were like falling asleep. So sitting like this in general for a long time is not necessarily ideal, at least not for me. So I kind of had this thing going where I would put all my weight on one leg, on one contraction, and then the next contraction, do the next leg. So it's kind of alternating where my weight was. And then as the contractions came, I would then I started breathing very deeply, and I don't know what other word to use other than moaning. Like I was just verbally expressing it, because I felt like if I didn't, it was again gonna cause me to tense up. So anyways, they're like, let's go to the bathroom. So I get up, I got on the toilet, and I felt the urge to push. And I was like, so I was telling my midwife, like, I feel like I need to push. And I mean, you just know when it's time, it feels like you have to go to the bathroom, number 2. And so I was like, okay, I feel like I have to push. Also at this point, I'm so spent, I'm so tired. And so I can't even really think, I can't even really talk. Like I'm just so tired, and I'm sitting in the toilet and I'm like, I feel like I need to push. She's like, okay, well, do you want to have this baby on the toilet? My first thought is, I don't freaking care. I just want to have this baby. Just get this baby out of me type thing. So she said, let's go back to the pool so then Asher can get in with you, and that way you can have the baby in the pool. I'm glad that she made that decision for me, because I had no decision-making abilities in that moment. I got on my feet and was squatting in the pool, one hand on the side of the pool, another hand on Asher. I feel like I pushed really freaking hard. I'm honestly very proud of myself, and that was not as hard to me as the transition. But I did that for like 2.5 hours. Again, did not feel that long at all. In my brain at the time, I was just kind of like taking one contraction at a time type thing. I remember there was one point where her head she was crowning for sure, like just here's her head, and then the contraction stopped. So I just chilled there for a little bit. But I will say, I don't know if this is because of water or whatever, yes, I could feel like almost like the tightness of it, but I didn't feel like a ring of fire sensation personally. Like it wasn't painful. I could just feel almost like the pressure or the stretching side of it, but it wasn't like painful in that sense. After that, like sitting there kind of feeling that, I think it was the next push, her head came out, and then she just slip and slid. Like she was on a freaking slip and slide. She just right on out. And and then of course like the midwife grabbed her, and I think her cord was wrapped around her neck or something, so she kept her under the water, which if you don't know, you can have a baby in water if your water hasn't broken, because it's water to water. They haven't taken a breath yet, so that's why I was able to do that. My water hadn't broken yet, so she kind of kept her under the water, did it, and then brought her up, and then Dakota, our little girl Dakota Grace Holland, was born, and she was able to take a breath and started crying immediately and got any kind of water out. And then they put her on my chest, and all I remember is the first thing that I did, I started crying. Of course I started crying, and I was like, she has hair. That's the first thing I said. So they put her on my chest, and I just sat there crying in disbelief, honestly, that she was here. She was finally here. All of that anticipation, 9 months leading up to it, the labor, everything, she had finally made it. So there was just so many emotions that flooded that moment. Asher was right there. He was in the pool with me, right next to me. And it was honestly just such a special moment. And that is my birthing story. So now that hopefully y'all can keep up with me, because I feel like I'm just, the way that I talk, it's like, oh, we're going here and then here. So looking back and processing it all, first thing is, would I ever do it again? Yes. If you would have asked me that the first probably 24 hours or even like the first week, it would have been a big fat I don't know. Like, I couldn't even really think about it, because I will say it was very challenging. And I just want to be super raw and honest, because if I'm assuming that that's what you want, but I also just want to recognize that, like, yes, it was challenging in some ways, but it was so worth it. And looking back, I feel like there were things that I could have done and that I want to do the next time that will hopefully make it less challenging, in the sense of where I can partner and work with myself a little bit better. So some of those things being, I think beforehand, before I actually go into labor, I am going to be super intentional the weeks leading up to labor, about any fears that I have, right? So I'd kind of done this loosely, but I wasn't super intentional about it. But one of the things that the book talks about, and just any other like resource that I found when it comes to natural child, like giving birth unmedicated, is it's such a mental game. You're in the thick of it, your mindset is everything, right? And so it's really important to do the mental work beforehand, which I had kind of done. But there were also things that, like, looking back, there are things that came up in labor that I wish I would have processed beforehand. So I had a bunch of fears come up, not a bunch, but I did have like probably 2 or 3 fears that would come up as I'm laboring, which the book talks about this a lot, where it can stall you. It can genuinely like cause your labor to stall, which I think did happen in some degree. And in the book, it kind of talks about like, you have to voice those, tell your midwife, tell your husband. And when I was in the moment, I just had no energy to do that personally. Like, I just couldn't be like, hey, I have a fear, can I process it with you right now? I just had to, I was doing it in my mind in the moment, and it wasn't super pretty or polished, but I was just like, Lord, I'm afraid of this. Please take it from me. Like, that's literally the extent. I basically acknowledged it and was just like, Lord, please take it from me. I don't want to, I'm so, like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to hold on to it. I don't want to partner with it, type thing. So I did that, but I had to do that several times throughout the labor. So I wish that I would have maybe made more space for that beforehand, so I was able to kind of deal with those things where they wouldn't come up in labor. And you just don't know what you don't know. I wasn't like actively thinking about those fears beforehand either, but I also didn't make a lot of space for it. So I wish I would have done that. I do think that kind of stalled me a little bit here and there. Another thing for me is I feel like because there are the 2 midwives there, and then my husband, I just kept thinking, oh, I feel so bad, like I'm making them stay up all night. And I think that stalled me too, because I just felt like, honestly, so bad about it. Not like it wasn't like daunting, but I definitely like I felt it. I felt bad. And I think that that stalled me too, because I'm just like, it put this pressure on me. Like, I've got to hurry. Like, I got to make this happen, as if I have any control over that. But I think that I put unnecessary pressure on myself because I wanted these people to be able to go home and sleep, and live their best life. So I ended up saying that like at an appointment after the fact, and they started laughing. They're like, this is our job. We do it all the time. We signed up for it. We chose to do this. Like, you know, no worries. So I think that that's something that definitely kind of caught me up for a little bit. I think one of the biggest things too, was looking back. I feel like the hardest part about all of it, the most challenging part, was how long it was, which I know that my birth wasn't like nearly as long as it could have been. It also wasn't nearly as short as it could have been. And for a first time mom, I feel like this is kind of average, or it's like a decent time. But I had these expectations, and I had been hoping and praying for so long that I was going to have a shorter-ish birth. It was just something that I was praying for and believing for. I had like a list of things that I wanted to in the labor, and I was just believing the Lord for it, right? So and a lot of it, most of it happened. But I think next time I just want to go in almost with like no expectations when it comes to stuff like that. Like, yeah, I can hope for it and pray for it, but also be really open to anything, you know what I mean? Because you just don't know. And I say that because I think as I was laboring so long, because I was like, oh, I was at 5 centimeters, it's progressing quickly, and all of a sudden it felt like it took a good long minute. I was disappointed, and I was a little bit like, what am I doing wrong? How can I make this happen quicker? Like, I think it just messed with me mentally, and it kind of depleted my endurance, I think. Obviously, I had enough endurance to finish the job. I mean, you kind of have no other option. It's not a job, but I had, you know what I mean? Like, I had enough endurance to actually finish it and to do it. But looking back, I would have gone in much more with like an endurance mindset. And hopefully all that makes sense. It's not too wordy or all over the place, but those are things that I will do next time, is go in really with an open heart and open mind. I 100% would do the whole like keep everything relaxed as much as possible, drink water throughout, have people there to encourage you. My midwives and my husband were great. They didn't overwhelm me, and I had worship music playing the whole time. The lights were down. It was just honestly such a peaceful atmosphere. And even just like verbally expressing, you know, deep sighs or groans, just to like get that energy out and to just relax and whatever, really did help me. I will definitely next time just make space to process any fears or hesitations that I have going into the birth. And then again, if things do come up in the birth, just process them in the mind, give them to the Lord, as it's happening. Thank you for listening if you made it this far. And if you are wanting to have an unmedicated birth, I will say it is absolutely 100% doable. Your body was created to do it. And I will also say that I feel like in general, I kind of have a low-ish pain tolerance, like honestly. So that was one of my fears too. Not necessarily in the moment, but leading up, I'm like, okay, all these people, they've done it, they've said it, but like, where's their pain tolerance at? You know what I mean? I was a little bit worried about that, but I also kept telling myself, I'm not the first one and I'm not the last one to do this. My body knows what it's doing. Affirmations like that, I really just told myself up into the birth, as well as listening to positive birth stories leading up to it. So there's all things, but let me just say, you absolutely 100% can do it. I do think it's so worth it. Like, if you've looked into it and this is something that you're interested in, I do think it's so worth it to experience birth like this. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I also, like I said, I'm in my mom era, so all I really want to do and all I think about and talk about is mom stuff and my daughter. So here we are. But all that to say, I'm hoping to I'm going to be making more content. So if there are any specific videos when it comes to mom life or having a baby or a newborn, please let me know down before. Also, postpartum or breastfeeding, I am all up in these. Like, seriously, I have no chill. When I am interested in something, I am not interested. I am utterly obsessed, and I go into a deep dive of research and all this stuff, and it just consumes my life. It's quite interesting, honestly. But anyways, all that to say, I would love to make postpartum videos, breastfeeding videos, mom, baby, day in the life, stuff like that. So if you have any specific requests, please let me know. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this encourages you, and I'll see you next time.